finals are coming, and some of you, with some other colleagues, may find yourself either putting your best foot forward and cramming on late night reviews, while some of you are just watching this video, didn't even know a thing about their syllabus. And to those who don't know what a syllabus is, by definition, an outline of the subject in a course of study or teaching.
For a clearer explanation, let's relate it to a more localized setting, the Philippines. Here, the government agency, Department of Education, also known as DepEd, gives which topics for a Filipino student should learn. They give it a division, then from there, individually order each schools, private or public, what they should teach their enrollees. This, in some sense, is effective, since every student on the whole country pretty much learns the same stuff. This is pretty well, and actually very effective, except for a couple of things, the teaching method, and how the students input that data, aka the lessons, into their minds. Let's take it a little further and dig in how an educator with a traditional way of teaching actually does his thing. For some of you who experienced the K-10 curriculum, aka Kinder to 4th year high school, you may have experienced instances wherein the teacher explains their syllabus without much participation from the students themselves. You know the time when the teacher just speaks incomprehensible stuff and you don't know a thing about what they are talking about at all? This is called passive teaching, and it's obviously extremely ineffective. And for the sake of tests and oral recitation, they nearly force you to memorize the entire lesson, word per word, including all the terms with exactly fixed definition and explanation, digressing its actual comprehension and application. This is because written tests are more on unimportant what is called and when and where did it took place, rather than how it works and how each lesson should be applied to a real-life application. Students perceive their topics as a pain in the brain to memorize. This is what Paul Fryer defined as the banking system of education on his paper called Pedagogy of the Oppressed on 1993. Paul Fryer once said, "Instead of communicating, the teacher issues communiques and makes deposits, which the student patiently receive, memorize, and repeat. This is the banking concept of education, in which the scope of action allows the student extend only as far as receiving, filling, and storing the deposits." To put it onto perspective, a brain is like a bank. In a bank, people deposit their fixed amount of currency, wherein such currency or money is irreplaceable by other goods, excluding other currencies. To explain further, when a certain someone deposits $5, he has a bank balance of $5 and cannot be converted to a $5 worth of other goods, such as bread and meat. To put it in brain's terms, the teacher deposits a fixed amount of data or information, irreplaceable in other words or definition. In other words, they completely memorize the whole thing, a word at a time, regardless of their understanding. Remember, Paulo Freire proposed this on the year 1993. So you may ask, it's already 2016. Surely they fixed this now. Today, I am here to show you why this banking method is still existing, and it is what we truly need to be concerned with in terms of education. And here are some interviews conducted by some of our members of our group. The question for our interview is, are you in favor of the banking educational system, wherein teachers just discuss their lessons for the sole reason of remembering and accurately recalling information given by him? Why or why not? Did you experience such instances?
Hindi ako pabor doon kasi syempre pag sinabi mo banking educational, So, pag ganon, ipapaano lang nila, hindi nila masyado ipaiintindi. Kumbaga, yung, what do you call that, parang ipapakabisado lang nila. Minsan kasi pare-parehas yung, hindi pare-parehas yung isip ng mga estudyante. So, yung iba, may matalino, merong sakto, tapos alam mo na yung alanganin. So, hindi lahat pare-parehas yung utak natin. So, yung iba, hindi mabilis makaintindi. Kung ipapakabisado niya nun, halimbawa kasi may mga hard words or may mga deep words na hindi masyadong alam ng mga estudyante. So, kapag ganun yung ginawa ng teacher, maaaring makabisado nila pero hindi nila alam yung meaning. Tapos, ayun.
Naka-experience na po ba kayo ng ganito?
I think oo. Nandiyan siya sa likod. Charing, may sa amin, may recite sa amin na word, tas kabisado. So, alam ko siya, nakuha ko siya, pero hindi ko alam kung anong meaning. Example kasi, may mga deep words sa English na masyadong malalim talaga pang modern. So, halimbawa, what do you call that? Yung, syempre may mga exaggeration word katulad sa mga sili, ganun. So, may nagbigay sa akin, halimbawa, kick the bucket. So, inisip ko, what is kick the bucket? Yun pala, isa siyang style ng figure of speech sa English. So, pinakabisado sa amin, hindi binigay yung meaning. Kaya yung ibang estudyante, hindi alam nila, pero hindi na ibig sabihin yung meaning. Kaya pagdating sa test, nga.
Sa tingin ko ay hindi sapat na kabisaduhin ang lesson o pinag-aaralan dahil kung iba ang pinag-uusapan, pwede ka nang mablangko, hindi makasagot ng maayos sapagkat yung kinabisan nyo lamang yung may sasagot.
Para po sa akin, hindi ako pabor sa traditional na pagtuturo ngayon kasi kulang yung naibibigay na sagot ng guro. Kaya nga po natin pinag-aaral ang ating mga anak para mas marami silang matutunan kaysa sa atin noon. Kasi noon, compare noon talaga na pagtuturo, hindi lang sila nag-i-stick sa isang sagot lang. Kailangan alam mo kung hanggang saan yung dapat mong maisagot. Kumbaga, mas more on, dapat pinapaliwanag ng teacher yung mga kahalagahan ng lesson sa mga estudyante. At para sa akin kasi ngayon yung pagtuturo ngayon mas more on na hinahayaan na lang nila yung estudyante na gawin yung mga sagot sa lessons nila, which is na hindi naman dapat ganun. Dahil kaya nga kailangan ng teacher, di ba? Kasi ikaw yung unang magtuturo sa kanila kung paano mo ipapaliwanag yung history noon o yung mga dapat pag-aralan natin ngayon ng mga estudyante. Kasi karamihan sa kabataan ngayon, marami na silang nagiging tamad mag-aral o tamad gawin ang assignment. Kasi nga, hindi nila alam kung paano nila gagawin yung assignment nila. Basta lang ibibigay yung lesson, tapos bahala na yung mga estudyante kung paano nila kukunin yung sagot. Paano kung wala nang alam yung estudyante? Paano kung hindi nila din afford na mag-internet lagi? O kung ano naman, wala minsan sa library, paano nila sasagutin yung mga assignment nila at yung lesson na itinuturo ng teacher? Kaya dapat mas tutok ang teacher sa mga estudyante at sa binibigay nilang lesson.
Still not convinced? Well then, look no further than the literacy rate itself. But in this instance, we'll tackle on the roots. Since we are talking about educational system and its efficiency, let us take it to its educational root. According to riff.org, the first 3 years of grade schooling are a critical time to learn the basic skills needed to tackle a more advanced curriculum. Because let's be honest, during high school and up, almost every student knows how to read, write, and comprehend. If not, it's almost certain they'll not be there in the first place. So to come up with a fair and reasonable conclusion, let's base our statistics on the literacy rate after the first 3 years of grade school to determine the efficiency of education. Plus, this is the most feasible subject to consider due to the fact that it's the time when they could evenly choose to whether memorize or comprehend their more complex studies at a 50-50 ratio. Keep in mind that it is the time they are taught how to read, and thus actually reading with proficient comprehension is a really new thing to them. According to Sartre on his paper of Being and Nothingness, there is no situation in which I do not have a choice, no matter how unpleasant. Meaning, they could choose to either learn how to read in a competent level or just memorize it instead. Note that by this level, their studies are rather more complex compared to their former studies. Thus, they have the freedom to either comprehend the whole flow of Earth's revolution or just memorize their terms. Because let's be honest, the dominant point of written tests is answerable by terms. In other words, we are finding the literacy rate of the students who is in the right age to be proficiently literate in order to shed some light into the quality of education today and whether banking system is applied. On doing so, we need to consider a couple of things. Number 1, the sample should be in a huge scale for more accuracy. Number 2, it should have a very diverse culture, so in this way, no racism. Number 3, it should be on one of the already developed countries on education quality and has a higher average literacy rate, for assurance that it is really the modern 21st century learners. Number 1, on a huge scale, according to www.worldometers.info, the 3 most populous countries in the world since 2015 are China, India, and lastly America. So, we have the 3 candidates to be our subjects. Next, we have to consider the race diversity, which quickly eliminate our candidate China and India since there is a very dominant race of natives. This just leaves us with one candidate, which is the US of A, or also known as America. According to KaplanUniversity.edu, it is the home of various races, dominantly white Americans, African Americans, Asian, and Hispanic or Latino origin, plus the other minor groups. Furthermore, according to the Trends in International Migrant Stock, the 2015 revision, USA has the most immigrants at about a monumental 46 million people, followed by Germany at 12 million. This proves that US of A by far the most diverse country due to its popularity rate and immigrants. Lastly, the third category, it should be on level with the 21st century learner, a leading country in terms of literacy rate and educational system. Thus needed to be an already developed country, which America fits quite nicely. According to www.pbs.org, the developing country, the Philippines, has a literacy rate of 95.4, while America have a 99% literacy rate. And about the educational system, the Philippines just adopted the K-12 curriculum, whereas American school was a pioneer to it. Now that we have our target sample, time for some research. According to NAEP, the National Assessment of Educational Progress of US, they have estimated that about a whopping 67% of the US student at a 4th grade level cannot read at a proficient level. 67%, about 2/3 of 4th graders at the US cannot read, write, and comprehend at a competent level in the time that they should be. Even worse, about 34% of them, roughly 1/3, doesn't even achieve the lowest level of reading. 1/3! Worse than that. According to one of the studies done by National Institute for Literacy, National Center for Adult Literacy, and the Literacy Company, U.S. Census Bureau of 2007, approximately 50% of adults cannot read a book written at an 8th grade level, and 45 million are functionally illiterate and can only read below a 5th grade level. Now I know why there is a reality game show named Are You Smarter Than a 5th Grader? But some of you may question me, but Eric, how is this related to the topic? You're leaving the topic again. And for that, I assure you this is a vital information for our conclusion. Why you ask? Because of one word. The most hated word for majority of the students, the one word most of us fear. Test. Consider this. All certain students needed a minimum final grade to pass. This varies from country to country according to worldlibrary.org. The letter D, grade or either, conditionally pass or pass per country is 70% of the Philippines, 60% on the USA, 50% at Indonesia, 60% at Mexico, 50% at the UK, 60% at Spain. It is also important to note this could vary depending on school and what they consider as passing. All of the grades are determined by some kind of assessment, a test. What if a 4th grader, the 34%, who doesn't even know how to read the lowest level, face grammar questions, find factors, identify sophisticated words, writing own stories, classification of plants, animals, and other subjects, and answers even word problems at their tests? How do they answer it? Did you ever pass the 3rd grade, then started the 4th with only about 2/3 or even 1/3 of the initial number of students left? Very unlikely. So they must have a way to answer the question and get more than 50% of it correct. It doesn't add up, except for one thing and one thing alone. They memorize. Memorizing a word is the most, if not only, feasible answer. If they could not comprehend, they just memorize what is written on their notebooks. And voila! Easy pass. This just proves that banking system is applied to nearly 34, 1/3 to 67%, 2/3 of the 4th graders. So what? Why should we give concern to this? Well, first, they wouldn't really understand the lesson. Secondly, according to Plato's theory of education, education touches the evil at the grassroots and changes the whole outlook on life. Plato emphasizes that the root of vice is ignorance, or lack of knowledge, and thus, efficient education is essential to convert a man back to a virtuous creature. As Friars stated, banking system is projecting an absolute ignorance onto others, rendering them uneducated and thus completely lack sufficient virtue. Say no to ignorance and say yes to education. Knowledge coming from education is our dominant basis for the world we live in, on science, mathematics, art, literature, music, politics, history, metaphysics, and many, many more. This knowledge serves as a big factor for how we see the world as it is. For this, Fryer proposed a problem-posing education model. This encourages students to think and solve their problems on their own, with their own ability. Needless to say, complete understanding is necessary. This opens up the possibility that they said the lecture is wrong and started being skeptical of its validity. This is similar to Socrates' Socratic method of teaching, wherein, in a dialogue, they ask and answer questions to not only improve critical thinking, but also to infer new and improved ideas. Even those that contradict the textbooks, this would lead to a new and more elaborate definition and explanation to the said topic. The philosopher and educational reformer John Dewey support this by saying on his paper Democracy in Education, "We are all instructors to realize that the quality of mental process, not the production of correct answer, is the measure of educative growth. Something hardly less than a revolution in teaching would be worth." However, Dewey further constructed another ideal means of educating. He proposed of what is now called progressive education, wherein infers a more hands-on way of learning. He further stated that, give the pupils something to do, not something to learn, and the doing is of a such nature as demand thinking, learning naturally results. Without a doubt, he relies more on empiricism, wherein we, as a human, acquire knowledge by our five senses: auditory, olfactory, visual, tactile, and gustatory. This is rather effective because we perceive reality as it is, and not as what textbooks said it is. Furthermore, this enhances our skills one way or another. As a conclusion, we could infer that the banking system is truly among us, and as a profound problem needed attention. We are guided by the thinkers of the past to open up a brighter future. Now, it is our duty to do so, either by questioning the so-called facts or experimenting on ourselves. We might just find reality truly stranger than fiction.